This is season number 19 of Bass Talk Live with Matt Pengrack. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Aftco, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Pro Guide Batteries, Beatdown Outdoors, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, and Omnia Fishing. Hit them with the hook, Jeffries.
PTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. It is a brand new week, and it is one of my favorite weeks of the entire season. It's Bassmaster Classic week. I think it's hard. I mean, if you grew up in the sport of fishing, it's almost impossible not to be excited about Bassmaster Classic week. And then obviously, as social media has evolved and developed over the years, you get to watch how these guys are doing it in practice. Their 3 official days of practice. They have been through the ringer as far as weather is concerned, with cold water temps, rain, wind, off day, I believe today. What is today? Today's Monday. No, today might be the final day. I don't know how it works. They got 3 days of practice and then off days and run through days and media days and then a final day. And then the thing gets going. One of the guys who has been there and done that, BTL fan favorite, and he's going to join me for today's show, the one and only Mr. Charlie Hartley from his home in Florida. What's up, Charlie? Thanks for jumping on BTL this morning.
Thank you for inviting me. It is one of the greatest weeks of the year as a bass fisherman and one of the greatest times of the year. There's all kinds of tournaments going on and all kinds of great weather and great fishing. And what a blessing for you to have your studio in your own house now. What's it like not having to drive to work?
It's interesting. I mean, I enjoy it. It is a little tough. I'm not going to lie. It is a little tough on mornings like this morning. So I've been, I don't know if you want to say fortunate, but I've designed my life in a way that I don't have to be like in an office from 9 to 5 or 7 to 4 or whatever. There's benefits that come with that. There's also downside that comes with that. And one of the things that I every time is like, man, I don't know if I could make it through a normal work day, is after you practice for a couple days for a local tournament, you put everything you've got into it, then you go out and fish that day, and it's usually a Sunday, and then by the time you get home and you get your boat put up and you take care of the business at hand, you're like, holy cow, I need a day off now. And then boom, the next week starts. You know that feeling, Charlie, where you're like, why did I just do that to myself? Because I was struggling this morning. I'm on, I think, the 3rd cup of coffee, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I don't have to go in and try to stay awake, because I don't think I could do it.
I run a business in tournament fish also.
That's kind of what I was saying.
Coffee's your best friend, and you're going to really love it as you get more mature. But it is a blessing that you work in the industry. You get, never take for what you do for granted. You get to promote sponsors. You get to talk about fishing, and you're making a living at it, dude. That's as good as it gets. You are blessed. God bless America.
I am 100% not taking that for granted, Charlie. But I also feel like I would like to start a petition, and I'm fishing a lot more local derbies this year, where all local derbies take place on a Saturday and not a Sunday. So then, Sunday's supposed to be your day of rest, correct? So then you get your day of rest to actually recover and feel like a human being before you hit Monday morning.
What was the you follow week like when you thought, oh, I'm fishing a major tournament and running shows this week? I'll bet that was excited.
Yeah, it was interesting, but I know myself, I know my personality, so I know how to schedule it out so I'm not stressed out about it. But do you get tired ever? Like, yes. Do you have to force yourself to get up?
When I was younger, no, Matt. I was born, you know how hyper I am. I can't sit still for a minute. And when I was younger, I did not get tired. I would literally be up working on tackle at 2 a.m. and say, you need to go to bed. You got to get up at 5 for work. I'd forget how late it was because I was not tired. But it will catch up with you eventually. And I go to bed real early. I get up real early, but you stayed with me. I go to bed real early now. I would much rather be awake at dawn than at midnight. When the day starts is when I'm strongest, but I don't want to get too sidetracked. The shows have been great. You did a great job at Eufaula. My life is wonderful. The biggest problem I got in my life is I didn't do as well at Eufaula as I wanted. Can we talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah. What happened?
Honestly, I am amazed after 35 years of tournament fishing that I missed the boat that much. Everything in my bass fishing experience and the temperatures and the pollen and some fish up on beds already told me this is going to be a bank tournament. First day of practice, I caught a couple giants on a swim jig. I covered the hook and I spent the rest of practice finding more fish. I was getting 10 to 12 bites a day on that swim jig, and 5 of them would be really good ones. So I was really happy, and because I was so happy, I never looked offshore. I never checked. And I knew I was in trouble the first day of the tournament. The morning started good. I had 3 for 9 pounds in about 2 hours, and I did the math in my head, and I said, you finish this limit, you'll be right in the thick of it. And I weighed 3 for 9 pounds at the end of the day, just totally frustrated. Enough people had picked up on that obvious pattern that I was fishing a lot of used water. And just was blown away at the weigh-in. Like, oh my gosh, look at these weights, slugfest. I totally missed something. All those boats that were offshore, I'm the idiot that wasn't offshore. I was running through all those guys to get to the backs going, what are they doing out in the middle of the lake? These crazy guys. It's spring. It's time to be on the bank. And was just really down after day one, knew the hole I had dug. And I was really worried about day 2 because after the off day, I really had nothing. I mean, the wind blew up the shallow stuff, and I had not practiced offshore, and I can't just go out there blind or try to move in on boats. But I was proud of myself on day 2 to salvage a limit. I went back to throw the swim jig, and I could tell right off it wasn't going to happen. It was bluebird, high skies. And I said, if you don't set this thing down, Charlie, you're going to have a really bad day. And I said, why don't you go up in that same grass with a big heavy weight and punch? And daggone it, I'm glad I used my head, got my limit. I got my first 3 fish without lifting the power pole. I needed that to happen right off, and it did. And I just kept that in my hand. I didn't feel very good for the guy behind me because I was pounding everything with that big weight. But salvaged a limit the second day and moved myself back up at least a little bit in the EQs. Didn't blow it for the year, but I sure can't have another bad finish. And you had the opportunity of having a good tournament, and I was very impressed how Bass handled the EQ or meeting, the emails they're sending us. They're really going above and beyond for this new EQ circuit. It was, you already said it. They had all the big wigs show up, and they made us feel important. They made us feel happy to have our money. And as you said, those are the 3 most expensive stickers you've ever bought in your life.
It is. Charlie, let's learn a little bit from this. Let's talk about changing game plans. We had Milliken on to break down that first Bassmaster Open on Lake Eufaula. You talked about how you picked up the swim jig and it didn't happen. I think a lot of people who are getting into tournament fishing, me included, I know you included, because you talked about how proud you were. I talked about how proud I was of it. When you go into the day with a game plan and you know early on that that's not going to happen, what are some of the things that you do to try to salvage that day?
That, to me, is one of the hardest things in the world, because you've got your mind set for a week on what's going to happen, and now you have to think totally out of that box that you put yourself in. And it can be scary because you're going to go into something blind in the middle of battle, and minutes are precious. Every minute you go without a bite's one less minute left in that day. And it seems like a long day when you start, but you know how quick it goes. And, you read about it all the time, but doing it's different than reading about it. You got to make that change with confidence. And that's the hardest time to be confident about anything. You're doubting everything at that point. So some positive reinforcement right off is the greatest thing that can happen. And I tell you one thing I have learned about bass fishing. Again, I've learned it, but I don't always exercise it. when you do the right thing fishing, they will tell you almost immediately. When you're doing the wrong thing, they'll let you do it all day long. You can just keep on doing it. But when you make the right decision, it's not like you have to do it for 2 hours to know you made the right decision. You'll get some type of feedback almost immediately. So one thing, in Ohio, I was very successful by being stubborn. We didn't get many bites. I know I haven't lived there for a long time, but if I flipped all day, by the end of the day, I was going to be all right. Even if it wasn't a flipping bite, if I flipped all day and was stubborn about it, I was going to bring in a good bag. And in these fisheries, there's enough fish that if you make the right decision, the right change, you'll get positive reinforcement almost immediately. You'll get a bite, you'll lose one, or you'll catch one. And, that just breeds confidence immediately. And what a tournament venue. Was Eufaula just one of the prettiest places? I stayed at the state park there, never had to trailer very far, drive very far. What a great place to have a tournament. A big fishery, it spreads out big. There were people that did okay. I've been watching your shows, Brandon and Sonar. A couple guys stayed shallow, went up the river and made it work. So there were a lot of patterns going on, but it looked like the winning pattern was definitely offshore, fish moving in, and I never even backed up to check. I thought they were all coming in droves.
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing and then salvaged it on those shell beds. Now, somewhere where it does not appear as though you have had to maybe you have had to alter, but you have not had to alter your game plan in Florida. If you know anything about Charlie, he runs Signcom from the kitchen table at his winter home in Florida, and then moves back during the smallmouth season to Ohio. But you've been absolutely blasted him down there over the last couple weeks, haven't you, Charlie?
Well, honestly, I brought that swim jig back from Eufaula and had it laying on my front deck, and I kept them down here a whole lot on a chatterbait in really thick stuff. And that chatterbait's very...
Uh-oh, I think we lost Charlie. Charlie's internet might have gone out. Hey, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our first break of the show, and then we'll try to get Charlie back by the time we come back. It is a BTL on a Monday, Bassmaster Classic week. We'll be back, hopefully with an unfrozen Charlie Hartley, right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top one on Strike King.
So I'm a big guy, a lunker, a two sandwich eating kind of man. And on behalf of all of those bigger, I gotta say it once and for all, it's bad enough that the fish look smaller in our hands. The last thing we should have to worry about is getting quality outdoor clothing that fits. Avco, any fish, any water.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ram-tailed craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
All right, welcome back, BTO on a Monday. I got a hold of Charlie Hartley on the phone there, and I think Greta might have ran into the electrical pole in the community that they live in there. He said he's feverishly trying to get back online, and he will. But in the meantime, while we wait for Charlie Hartley to get back, we do have a plethora of tournament events that went on this past weekend, in addition to the guys starting practice for the Bassmaster Classic. First and foremost, let's start out with Brandon Perkins and the NPFL win. It's pretty impressive. $100,000 is what the NPFL, and I think they had like 75 guys for this, 3 total days. And I need to pull up the results because this is something we talk about, the duration and the length of tournaments. And I think this is very important. It's not important. It's interesting though, because they say, the longer you have, the more the talent in the field comes out per day. So that's why I like the Red Crest, where you had 3 consecutive days, which is the length of the Classic, but then you also had the 2 cumulative weight days before they zeroed it. So basically 5 consecutive days. And let me pull up the results from this first NPFL on Pickwick. So what you have to remember is they had an opportunity to lock, and on the first day of that tournament, I believe 11 anglers got caught in the lock in the NPFL, and they zeroed. Now, out of that, Gary Atkins, I'm making sure I get this right. Yeah, Gary Atkins came back with 20 pounds, 10 ounces, and 1812 to finish in 13th. So you zero a day, full field on Pickwick, and you still finish in 13th. Sheldon Collins, also 0 on the first day, comes back with 16-16 and 18-13 to cash a check in that. But a dominating victory by Brandon Perkins, second NPFL victory, and he's looking at $150,000 just on the NPFL in that. Over on the MLF Toyota Series side, we had 2 tournaments that went down this past weekend, and the first is a dude who's really well liked in this area. I don't really know him that well. His brother fishes too, but that's Blake Capps, won by over 7 pounds in the Toyota Series Championship on Grand, dominated by the umbrella rig, the Alabama rig, and really tough on Grand. It seems if you look across the country that this is that 1 or 2 weeks where weather, transition, and bait are all making it very hard. Mike McClellan did finish 8th in that tournament, which is good for Mike. He's been struggling a little bit lately, so great to see Mike McClellan back with the top 10 and look for him to carry that momentum on for the remainder of the MLF Invitational Series. Also, dude, here's a dude who fishes every single day, and it's Chad Warren. He was actually leading. He's going to be on the show too to talk a little bit about what's going on. He went from Eufaula, the Open, drove all night, got to Grand Lake last weekend with 0 sleep. I think he fished with his dad, got second in the Nichols. Then the following week, won a major tournament, then went directly back to Grand, was leading the Toyota Series after 2 days. And then yesterday I had a jackpot on Keystone, and the air gas boat was out there, and it was Chad Ward. The dude is just ate up with fishing and has made quite a bit of money just around the house over the past year. But yeah, Blake Capps, 59.6, over 200 boats in that. But man, this is the $35,000 Phoenix bonus money, and he goes $87,000, which is crazy for a Toyota Series win. Another familiar name on the Toyota Series who also got a win this past weekend would be Nick Salvucci on the California Delta. Second place would have been Ken Ma in that event, and those two guys really work well with each other. They're good friends. I messaged Ken. I said it's cool to see you genuinely excited for a guy that just beat you, but he was happy, and Nick Salvucci gets the win on the California Delta. I did not realize it was his first win with the MLF. With the MLF organization. But all right, I think we got Charlie Hartley back. Let's bring him back in. You still there, Charlie?
I am. I hope it holds up. I'm trying to use the iPhone personal hotspot. How do I sound?
Fantastic. All we were doing, I ran through the 3 major events that went down with Nick Salvucci. Have you fished the U.S. Open before? You fished the U.S. Open before.
I have not fished the U.S. Open, the Canadian Open, but it's on my bucket list. We were going to do it. If it fits into our schedule, I'm going out with you next time.
Do you know, so you've never met Nick Salvucci then, big West Coast guy. He's really good. Really good. Yeah. And then I was talking about Brandon Perkins in the NPFL, 100K there with 75 boats. Boy, if they're able to sustain that is the tour to be in to make some cash money this year with 75 boats. I think they're paying down 18, 19, 20 places and 100K for the winner.
Yes, and I hope they make it because, obviously Soak Up and a couple other guys graduated from there, so it's a good feeder stream. I hate to call it a feeder circuit because they don't want to be that, but it's, very professional anglers in that circuit.
Yeah, I was joking. I think that Mary Lou in your little community there hit the pole that had the electricity for the internet in her Lincoln Town car.
She fell off her walker.
not the internet out there in the neighborhood.
We went to a function there for St. Patrick's Day, and I was reminded again that we're the youngest couple in here by 30 years. It looks like it's almost scary to go in there because you're like, oh God, that's going to be me someday.
I don't know. I think you're going to go until you're 105, Charlie.
Anyway, back to that swim jig. I brought it back from Eufaula, and I missed a good fish playing around last weekend. I found a spot they were loaded, and I missed a good fish. And I went to pick up another bait to throw at, and that swim jig was just sitting there. And I threw it out, and the thing climbed the pads to get it. And I go, well, let's try this thing through here. Well, you know, Matt, after these cold fronts get over down here, this water warms up. Our fish are very aggressive, not like the cold front fish you've experienced down here. And they will literally climb the grass to get that thing. It's some of the most aggressive, exhilarating bites you've ever had, and you cannot screw it up. I mean, when they want it, it's down the hatch, and you're throwing it on 50-pound braid, and you got them. I mean, you got to really mess up not to land that fish. I won the first Wednesday evening tournament of the year, which is a really competitive group down here. And I fished alone because my buddy Terry's having a family emergency. And they asked me after I weighed in, you fished alone, what are your intentions for the rest of the year? How long are you going to be here? So I'm not sure everyone was as excited about it as it was. But literally that big one I caught on the last cast, Matt, when it goes right, it goes right. I said, you got a big bag. You ought to leave a little early. And I said, you got time for one more cast. And I made one more cast, and that big one boiled on it. And I felt her and I missed her. And I went, oh my gosh, you just missed big bass of the tournament. And I threw out one more time, dude. And she grabbed it again. And I winched her in, and I called out my last small one and went running in. So pretty exciting.
That's a heck of a story, Charlie. So this was on Toho. So you take out right there out of Toho. So how many boats jump in on these Wednesday night shootouts?
It was really bad weather, and it was the first time of the year, not making any excuses. Usually they get 40 or 50 boats. We probably had 20 or 30 boats, and it's my favorite time of the year because we fish Wednesday morning tournaments also. And once daylight saving time hit, we start the evening tournament. So I fish a Wednesday morning from 7 to noon, come home for a few hours, kiss the wife, wash the truck, and then I get to go to an evening tournament. And like you said, how you felt Monday morning, that's how I feel Thursday morning, especially after I win and have a couple cold pops to celebrate. It makes Thursday morning a little groggy, but really fun. And then I fished the third or fourth extreme Sunday on Toho. I had to fish alone. Terry still got an emergency, and I had 18 and a half pounds and didn't get paid. I took 23 pounds. The fishing's been off the hook. And then the week before I came down to Eufaula, I won our Wednesday morning tournament on East Lake, which is not as renowned for great fishing as West Lake Toho. And I had one of the biggest bags they recalled ever being weighed in, 17 something, and I had big bass over 7 pounds. And at Toho, East Toho, when we fish Wednesday morning tournaments, that's unheard of. It really is. I caught that's a neat story too. The lake was calm. It was glass. There wasn't any movement. You could hear a pin drop, and I fished my best area, finessing it, some top water. And I was just about to leave my best area, and I go, before you leave, you might as well throw something loud, even though it doesn't fish the situation. I pulled a chatterbait out in about 4 casts. I caught a 5-pounder, and I already was laughing because I knew that was big bass of the tournament there. Anytime I fished there, 5 pounds is a big bass. And I finished my limit, and then my last one was a 7-something, and I went, oh my God, they're going to think I cheated. Now I got a 5 and a 7-pounder.
You're on fire. Yeah. You're absolutely on fire, Charlie. You're having a great spring. And here's the thing: I feel like everyone, even when you kick their ass, they're happy for you because you're just such a likable guy down there.
I try to make it that way. And most people are happy for me because I'm always happy for them, Matt. I used to stay after to get the checks at the elites, the guys that didn't make the final cut, they hand the checks out behind the tent. And everyone that would go up for their check, I'd applaud for them, and they'd all look at me like I was crazy. And I go, I just do that so when I go up to get my check, you guys will all applaud for me.
All right, I want to point this out before I move on, and then I actually I have my buddy Adam, who's an ardent BTL listener, sent me a Instagram message, and he's just getting into the fishing and the tournament fishing. I met him at the charity event in Minnesota. but he is planning a trip for like a week down to Florida in April. And he's asking me all this stuff about it. And it just occurred to me right now that like, okay, I can give him the basics because I've been down there covering and stuff. But man, Charlie, you could probably, if I read the message to you, you could probably point him in the right direction because he's going to have a boat down there as well. But first, I want to pull this image back up from the Wednesday night and check out. Now, I'm not sure check it out on the right here. This is either Sam or Brandon, but check out how he's holding that bass in his left hand like a Coke can.
Oh, it's an ice cream cone. Yeah.
He's holding that thing like he's just gripping it like it's a 16-ounce beer. Did you notice that?
Yes, I certainly did. And unfortunately, off to the right, their good one got cut off. They had a good one. The other gentleman's holding it off to the right.
That is legendary right there. I mean, he's just got that thing just bear gripping it.
Yeah, Matt, I have also been fishing all these without a net because I want to get more and more used to not having a net. And you know what? When you're solo, I think you're better without the net. You know, when you're solo, you're looking for that net halfway before the fish is even to the boat. You're distracted by it. And before I got cut off, I was going to tell you, I'm throwing that thing on 50-pound braid, dude, and you got them. And when you're not using a net, you start thinking about different tactics. Some tactics are more net friendly than other tactics. And, tournament fishing gets down to efficiency and not always just wanting to have fun. It's what's going to haul this meat into the boat. And man, that system I'm throwing that bait on, it hauls the meat into the boat.
What is that system?
I'm fishing. I got my Falcon stuff on.
There you go. Go grab the rod, Charlie. Yeah. Charlie is now headed into his well. And here's the thing. When Charlie says he's going to go get something, it's pretty obvious that he's going to be back with it because Charlie's so organized. There is no, I wasn't able to find it. So when he goes hunting, he finds.
Yep. This is a Falcon 7.4 heavy action. It's a CC6 174. It's made for 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce baits. It's 7 foot 4 inches, 15 to 30 pound recommendation. It's got a real fast tip. I'm throwing the Hyper Mag lures, 7.5 to 1 fast, with the big old grips and the big old handles. And I mean, the key is the hook in that swim jig. It's a 5/0 stout mustad hook. You cannot open it up with braid. And it gets them. I mean, it really gets them. I had one yesterday. My first fish in the morning was hooked in the eye socket, and it didn't bleed a drop. And I put it in the live well. When I went to put my second fish in there, it was almost dead already. Well, that hook went through that eye socket, and you know what happened.
Yeah. Hey, whoa, keep that there, Charlie. You got to keep your deal because it looks to me like you had a full 5-inch trailer on that swim jig, which you just casually overlooked. It failed to mention. Is that a little secret down there to beef up the profile?
Yeah, it's more about the boot tail than the jig. I'm pretty sure you don't need a skirt. I'm pretty sure it has a lot more but the hookup ratio compared to Texas rigging that swim bait is incredible. It's on that swim jig. I mean, it gets them. I was not a big swim jig guy. And of course, we watched a bunch of live before Eufaula, and they were one lake down at Seminole and were catching them on a swim jig. So I said, this needs to be on the deck with a big boot tail on it. And I love throwing that thing now. You can feel that tail kicking just like you're reeling a swim bait at Lake Erie, except you're reeling it on braid and 6 inches of water instead of, a little Kitech on a spinning rod and 30 feet of water. It's an addictive bite, a very addictive bite, and you cover so much water, it's ridiculous. You can throw that thing a mile in the wind, and even if they hit it at the end of the cast, you're going to get them most of the time.
It's funny also you mentioned the net. You want to watch the biggest monkey humping a football scene in history, go back and watch the old FLW days where those guys are trying to wrangle the net with one hand and trying to fight a fish with the other. It's not conducive to smooth landing.
Several times a net has cost me a fish because you waited on it or you were looking for it or, daggone it, it messes up your mojo when you're bringing that fish in. And as long as you got the right stuff on, I mean, with a crankbait, I'd love to have a net every time or a rattle trap, but most single hooked baits, you know, you're just better off grabbing them if they're not too big, you're better off boat flipping them. I hate saying that. The more time you screw around at the side of the boat trying to grab that fish, that cost me a huge one at the Chesapeake last year. Because I was trying to grab it and I should have boat flipped it, a big one on a jig, and it's sitting there spinning and spinning, and I can't get my thumb in its mouth. And it shook its head one time, and I watched that jig come out, and I fell to the floor. I mean, I almost puked. I couldn't move for 5 minutes. That fish on day one would have made my day, and I just collapsed. I knew that fish was there, got it to bite in practice, went back there with the tide at the right height. It ate it, got it clear to the boat, and I dumped it. Ugh.
Not good.
Not good.
All right, Charlie. Could I read this Adam's message to me? And then I know you love helping people. Maybe you can point them in the right direction.
Happy to.
All right, here we go. My mom and I, who also loves to fish, are going to Florida the 24th of April through May 7th. So end of April, beginning of May. I've been trying to do my due diligence and homework for this trip as far as going down there, if they're going to be spawning, hopefully post-spawn, areas to target, lakes to go to, etc. I've heard Florida as a whole is a different animal. So with that being the case, do you have any tips about going down there and what to expect? I truly do not know, since I haven't been and doing all of my homework online. I've heard and understand the water clarity issue, possibly pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn, but I'm truly not sure where to start as far as out deep or on the banks. We really just want to catch fish, make memories, and I personally want to get a big one. Curious on your thoughts about Florida that time of the year. Do you have any insights? Thank you. So obviously your insights, and don't be humble here, your insights would be much better than my insights on this, Charlie. So end of April, beginning of May, go.
All post spawn. Great time of the year. That's when they really start eating here. When the water warms up here, these fish burn calories and they have to eat. It's going to be miserable hot. You'll be surprised how hot it is that time of the year. We're supposed to be back in the 90s for the weekend, and that's why I leave pretty soon. It gets miserable hot and muggy down here, but if you can stand it, the fishing's fantastic. If you're going to fish the bank, you're going to want to be on the outside Kissimmee grass line, not way back in. There will still be fish on the outside Kissimmee grass line. Offshore will even be more wonderful, but that's a lot to try to take in when you're new down there. So the visual Kissimmee grass edges, anytime, the thing you're looking for down here is a mixture of grass. Whenever you get 3 or 4 different types of grass together, that's a fertile area. I can't tell you why that is, but if you get pads, Kissimmee grass, silver dollar pads, pepper grass, hydrilla, eelgrass. We have so many, but the more varieties you can get in one place is better than 3 miles of just Kissimmee grass. And you're looking for irregularities, points, little entrances into pig trails, entrances into canals. That's the easiest thing to read that's visual down here. If you want to get offshore, the nice thing about offshore in Florida, it doesn't mean deep water. Offshore, you can still throw a big super spook right in the middle of the lake because, you know, our deepest water is 6-7 feet and the grass is up 3 or 4 feet off the bottom. So one of the greatest tactic down here offshore, once the water's warm, and it will be very warm by then, is a big super spook, man, and it's a great bite. Any big topwater bite that they can see from a long ways away. And you'll get, by that time, a lot of the hydrilla will be topping out. So you'll be able to see visual hydrilla out in the middle of the lake. How's that?
That's good. Any suggestion on fisheries?
Oh, the Kissimmee chain's been off the hook. It really has. That and it won't be busy that time of the year. You know, it's funny, Matt, we just had spring break here, and it never fails in Florida between spring break, Christmas, any holiday the tourists show up, we get a cold front, and that's Mother Nature protecting Florida. She wants those tourists to go home and not find out how nice it is here. So By that time, it's going to be very nice and warm. We just had the last cold front of the year. It's always right on spring break. The locals laugh because everyone comes down with their swimsuits and they want to go to the beach, and it never got above 60 yesterday. Our last cold front of the year, I believe, going to be 89 and 90 Saturday and Sunday. But the semi-chain's great. A lot of lakes that are too small for tournaments are a lot better than the tournament lakes down here because they don't get the tournament pressure.
You don't have to name them if you don't want to.
I'm not going to name them, but you can look all over the map. And any lake that's too small for a tournament, great lake down here. It only takes a puddle to grow a 10-pounder down here. It has nothing to do with the size of the lake. About every pond has a 10-pounder in it. It's just the nature of Florida. Headwaters is very popular, and that's why I don't like it. I don't like going to a place where the parking lot's full every morning. When I'm pleasure fishing, my perfect launch ramp, I'm the only trailer at the launch ramp. I don't want to have to run around the lake and fight people for a spot. When I'm pleasure fishing, I want the lake to myself, and I want dumb, naive, fun fish to catch.
That works. You want to talk a little bit about the Bassmaster Classic coming up here, Charlie?
I do. What do you think of the venue for starters?
I think it's a good venue because it is very diverse, and we've seen between Ott's Classic, the FLW that have been here in the past, and then what Jeff Gustafson did in the Elite Series last year. I think it's going to spread out way more than the first Classic. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. The only thing I fear is it's a fairly stingy waterway, which if you're a fanatic, you don't mind watching a tournament where the catches are stingy. But if you're just a casual fan, it doesn't make for great live when you go an hour without a bite. But they're hitting tough conditions. We just got spoiled by watching several live slugfests, so we're really going to have to tone our excitement down, little flat sides and slow fishing and just trying to catch a keeper, to be honest with you. On this early in the year on a tough fishery, a limit's a great start. I wouldn't mind starting the first day at that venue with a decent limit.
The crazy thing, Charlie, is that, they practice. I mean, it was freezing cold. It rained. The water was cold. And you look at Friday, Saturday, Sunday for Knoxville, Tennessee. Like, there's literally a freeze warning right now in Knoxville, Tennessee. And you're looking at highs of 76, 66, and 75 with 58, 38, and 54 as the low. You're going to have one day that's cloudy with 13-mile-an-hour winds, one day that's partly sunny with 10-mile-an-hour winds, and one day that's sunny with 5-mile-an-hour winds. So you want to talk about someone putting a pattern together and earning it on the fly? That's, I think, what's going to happen. I don't think practice is going to be as important as it is in some venues and some classics. Is that fair?
Yes, and speaking of practice, that 5 days is whole different, isn't it? At the Opens, that's a whole different deal. That's almost too many days. But back to the Classic. It will be a neat one to watch, and I always watch the weather up in Columbus, Ohio, so I know that they're getting that warming trend. And how weird has the weather been this spring? I mean, we went from winter at 80 degrees in those first couple of live tournaments we watched. Fish spawning, it was crazy how quick that happened. And then you get this cold weather back and everything backs up again and backs up. But the amount of pollen and blooming we saw at Eufaula for that time of the year just cracked me up. Normally that time of the year, you're freezing. It's freezing. The water's 45, 50 degrees. So it's been a crazy spring, but winter's starting to catch back up with us. There's been guys on Lake Erie, for a month. So wow. It's been crazy.
Are you a believer that the fish go to the bank based on daylight length, based on water temperature, based? Does it differ time of the year? So like use Eufaula as an example. There were a ton of pre-spawn fish that were caught offshore deep cranking, and you had to clean your graph off every 10 minutes because there was so much pollen on the water and the dogwoods were blooming and it was mid-60s water temp. And you're like, dude, there shouldn't be a fish deeper than 12 foot on this fishery right now. And here it was, top 10, everybody was deep cranking. That kind of surprised me.
Yeah, obviously, I have no idea. So you go to the next question. I'm just kidding. It's a combination of all that. Length of day, water temperature, moon phase, time of the year. It doesn't always happen on the same day, but that's a good indication. And just like when the bucks go into rut, it's within a certain range of time of the year for each region. But a lot of things have to line up, and it's so different down here than it is as you go up north, where you have winter, the spawn comes mainly as one big wave on, most northern reservoirs. Down here, we spawn for, 4 months. There were fish on beds, yesterday, and there's been fish on beds for, when Chris Lane was here. By the way, Chris Lane's victory, unbelievable. Awesome. Blew my mind. I watched it down to the last second, had no idea he was going to pull it out. That was unbelievable. One of the most emotional victories I've ever seen, because he did not know he won until he said that. I do miss weigh-ins, but the reaction you get from them in the boat the second they find out instead of after they drive to the weigh-in and already know is priceless. That reaction from Chris Lane, I had tears in my eyes looking back at Brahma Island, where I grew up and fished with my dad. We have the coolest sport in the world. And maybe someday his son will do that same thing and point at Brahma Island. Love the legacy of our sport. You do too. That's why you're on the board of the Hall of Fame. Our sport makes magic stories that you couldn't write these stories. They're blessings. Fishing's a blessing like that.
Well, there will be another story written this upcoming weekend in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you're good to get through one little break, I'll give you a little bit of time to get your thoughts around it. But I want to pick your brain. Like I said, I've got Jeffries. We're going to do the odd show tomorrow before I head to Knoxville for the Bassmaster Classic. It probably will not be a morning show tomorrow, just if you're listening to this now, just because of the fact that he's teaching. And you can't do a show while you're molding the minds of America's youth guy. It's terrifying to think that Jeffries is doing that. But after he's done, we'll have Mark on to do his odd show, and he also has to do the odds. He might be a little bit behind on that because I think he's doing them for Best on Tour as well. But anyway, you get a couple picks. I'll give you a minute and a half to think about it while we run some commercials, and then we'll come back and we'll have Charlie's picks on who to keep his eye on at Knoxville this year. It's BTL on a Monday, March 20th, Bassmaster Classic Week, BPT going on. 2 Toyota Series just wrapped up. $100,000 given out for the MPFL. You won it in tournament fishing. It's happening right now. When we come back, Charlie Hartley's Classic Picks.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves the house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for Everyday Carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips. So if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at ShorelineBoatandRV.com. Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, welcome back. BTL on a Monday with Charlie Hartley from Florida. He is holding up a towel that says, "Kindly wipe your feet." That is a towel that is made for you, Charlie.
A buddy sent that to me, and I said, thank you, and sent a picture of it. He goes, "Look at the other side, you dummy." And I had not flipped it over. And you don't want to know what the other side says. It's not very nice about wiping your feet. It says, "Wipe your beep, beep feet." So you can flip it one side to be real nice, or you can flip it to the other side.
I like it. All right. I think right around 50 guys in the Bassmaster Classic. If you want to know Charlie's pedigree in the Classic, you can go back to the shows we've done over the years. He has gone in depth about his history of the Classic. He is one of less than 100 guys who's been able to say that they've led the Bassmaster Classic. Like I said, I don't want to go into that today. Go back and watch that show. You did an hour and a half long where you broke it down, and it was one of the most awesome shows on that Lake Hartwell.
Thank you.
Lake Hartwell tournament. But your thoughts on it
was very flattering. Ken Duke was very.
Your thoughts on the Classic, Charlie? Who's going to make a run at this thing?
Well, I think it's going to be Brandon, and I'm not giving a last name.
So that's a lot of Brandon. So that's Brandon Card. That would be a crazy story with Brandon Card. He's literally fishing with Bell's palsy right now.
Again, our sport. Yeah.
He's fishing with Bell's palsy. There's no chance that he would ever be able to fish this year. He said, "Screw it, I'm fishing with an eye patch on." He goes down and he freaking blasts him in Florida.
And then we have Brandon Polinick. We have Brandon Lester. And I mean, all of them are real possibilities. I mean, that's Brandon Card's area. That is Brandon Lester's area. Polinick has to be pretty frustrated with his first 2 elites, so he's going to be pissed. And one of the best anglers on the planet.
Don't leave out Brandon Cobb.
Brandon Cobb, another great possibility. That dude catches them everywhere. That's a pretty common name for that age group, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently it is. What are you thinking? I mean, you kind of know how that place fishes. Have you have any experience on that Tellico, Loudon, Tennessee River area, Charlie?
Yes. Yep. My personal favorite, just a fan favorite, would be Greg Hackney. I would love to see Greg Hackney win the Classic. I'm one of his biggest fans. When he's on live, it's probably one of my favorite fishermen to watch. He's just, the way he fishes, I mean, it's Greg Hackney as soon as they put it up there, even if they just did a silhouette. He fishes like I learned to fish, and he's always wonderful on the water, respectful. You won't have anyone say a bad thing about Greg Hackney other than he kicked my ass today. Just a class act. I'd love to see him win after coming back. And then I'm certain Swindle made the Classic, didn't he? He had a great year. It would be another fan favorite. I mean, we love seeing. I'm an old school guy, and I fished with these guys, made it to the elites the same time as these guys, fished and qualified for the elites. I parked next to Hackney at my first Classic in the boatyard, and that's when we met and started talking and became friends. And just mutual respect for all these guys. I really do. You know the work ethic it takes to get there. You don't end up at the Classic because you were lucky or you just casually went fishing. You pointed every ounce of energy you had in your life to get there. So it's going to be one of the greatest things that could ever happen to a bass fisherman. Someone's going to have the greatest thing in the world happen to them. I kind of hope it's not a repeat winner just because they've already had that nice feeling. Let someone else get that feeling. I mean, it's as a bass fisherman, there's nothing you would ever want to have happen to you. There's nothing higher you could dream of than winning the Bassmasters Classic. So, all the big name pros, even KVD, stayed every time to watch the new Classic champion crowned because he knew how important that was in someone's life. And it meant that much to him to see someone else win it, that he would stick around every time to watch that trophy get grabbed. That's how I can't stress, how emotional or career changing, not just career changing, it's
life changing.
Yeah, life changing. It is.
Interesting. You mentioned, and we are filming the Open Pros Pick'em early tomorrow, so that'll be out with Ish and Todd Castledine over on Andrew Upshaw's channel. But it's amazing. Like, let's be honest, that there are people who said, hey, the Classic's gutted. It's no longer what it was supposed or what it is because the big names are now over at MLF and now it's way easier to win. And to that, I say total and complete BS. And you look at some of the storylines that are coming into this year, specifically after Jason Christie's win last year on the fishery that, he really only had the 4 fish on Hartwell and he gets that win and he gets it back. I think he's going to be strong in this one. Just knowing Jason, I don't think he wants to hand that off and have someone else the highlights on stage. I think he liked that feeling. He's got the monkey off his back. Everything's rolling. And I think he doesn't want to have to hand that trophy off to anyone else. But you mentioned it. And I'm just talking human interest, personal stories that are really worth following, Charlie. And you mentioned some of them, but obviously the Swindle story. I think his only win is in Florida on a Carolina rig of all things. Am I correct on that?
Yep, I was there. Yes, sir.
And then you've got the Brandon Polinick, who has come very close on Grand Lake, defending Angler of the Year, looking to get his first Bassmaster Classic, and he's already a bona fide superstar with the 2 Angler of the Years and the 5 Bassmaster Elite Series wins and the Bass Nation National Championship win. His relation with Brian Kirchhoff in that 94 Classic with the fish whistle, his understanding of history, being a new dad, and then to come out and pop a Classic here would be astronomical for bass and the sport.
What about Carl Jacobson? Wouldn't that be a great story if he won? My gosh. And you had his name on there. The interview you did with him was incredible. And he's going to try to do this and not make his family sacrifice his other part of his life. It's incredible the work ethic he's shown to get himself in the position he's in. I mean, dude, I can remember going to tournaments 20 years ago, and I'd go into town to get something on an off day, and his truck would be parked outside Anytime Fitness. I mean, this dude's an animal, man. His body, his mind, his determination, he is driven. Because like Charlie, he did not have natural born talent. He has learned to be a great fisherman. I mean, he has learned to be a great angler.
That's well said. Well said, Charlie. Totally agree with you. So there's that Carl element. And then obviously Hackney. You mentioned him. It's the only thing that he hasn't won. He's won everything else. He posted the other day, hey, it's the greatest week in the history of the sport. I mean, he's back here to win the Dang Classic. He went over, in my opinion, I haven't talked to him. We went over to the BPT and MLF and went, hey, this is great. I like it over here, but you can't win the Dang Classic. And that's the only thing left on the list for me. So it would be very emotional. I think he's more emotional than people give him credit for. Would you agree? Everyone thinks that he's the stone-faced stoic killer. I think Hackney would be an absolute mess if he was able to lift that classic trophy up.
I'd love to see him cry like a baby when he picked the trophy up. Wouldn't that be awesome? Because he is as intimidating as he is and quiet, and his posture. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Every time he comes up to me, it's like a big old teddy bear, even though when you first look at him, you're like, he's going to cut me. You know?
Yeah. And then someone you didn't mention, but he's another Florida guy. I mean, he's fishing it because his dad has 9 Angler of the Year titles and 0 Bassmaster Classics, I think in 25 Classics for Roland Martin. And that's Scott Martin.
Yep. I watched a show yesterday he did with his daughter, Hillary, and he said she's going to carry on bass fishing in our name for the 3rd generation. And that girl's on the cover of magazines and doing it up. And what an incredible family. You know, back in the day, there were all these stories about Roland and this and that. And I got news for you. Roland Martin's a great American fisherman, always will be, always has been. Roland, Bill Dance, and Jimmy Houston, those are the icons, you know. And for Scott to be there, you know, to walk away from FLW and put himself in that position. But I also think it speaks for the competition at the elites. You think all the big names are gone. Well, Scott Martin didn't just show up on the elites and win Angler of the Year. There are some tough damn fishermen on the elites. And it doesn't matter if you know all their names. I'll bet they can kick your ass in a tournament. And it speaks volumes of the level of competition. So many new names we see winning that when you look into their new name, these guys didn't just show up. These guys didn't just show up to their first elite tournament. They're all like you, like me. They've done it since they were kids. They've dreamed of this. They've scratched and clawed to get on the elite.
Also, quite a few really young guys who could just rocket to the top here. In Jay Shakurat, you know, I got a chance to know him. Very, very naturally talented angler in the future. I mean, it wasn't a, hey, you won on smallmouth and you're done. He's going to be around for a long time, but he's in his early 20s. You've also got Lou Minetti, or Louis Minetti. I just like Lou Minetti, the college angler, and then back-to-back classics. Now, if we're going to pick a dark horse, I'm taking this guy right here. He's got the hair. He's got the look. He's like a young Bob Ross. Tristan McCormick.
I knew you were going to say
Burns,
that.
Tennessee. Listen,
I knew you were going to
back-to-back
say
classics.
that.
He made it as a college angler last year, so he's got the whole classic stuff out of the way. His personality is, hell yeah, I deserve to be here, and I'm out here to kick ass.
Dude, do you know I had him as a co-angler a couple of years ago?
No, really?
Yeah, and boy, he showed me how many fish I was on. It was incredible how many fish were on that spot. Oh, he was nice enough to quit casting eventually after he upgraded several times and said, just throw right over there, Mr. Hartley.
Really? I was not aware of that.
Oh,
so
yeah, I won't even
do you not think he's a
what tournament or what position I was in? Bless his heart. He could catch one out of a bathtub, man.
He is. And then, you know, you got the young, more young guys, you know, Cody Huff. You have a number of international anglers in there with Kenta Kimura, Taku Itu, the
Carl
Johnstons and Gussies and Carl Jacobson. So you're talking Japan, Australia, Canada, all over the map. I
wonder who the oldest guy is in this classic. Who would you guess just without looking?
Without looking?
Yeah. Just guess.
I've got to see.
It might be someone in my generation.
Do you know? Do you know?
I'm just thinking, brainstorming right now. It could be Gerald or Hackney, I'm afraid.
Oh, my gosh. I think it's probably Gerald.
Isn't that terrible to think that young Gerald would be the oldest guy?
Zaldane, what? Yeah, there's Gerald. Schmidt, Slapper. It's going to be Gerald Swindle.
I didn't point it out for that reason. It just popped in my head. You were talking about all the young guys. I'm like, wonder who the oldest guy is.
He's older than Hackney, isn't he?
They're close. I'll bet they're close. I think Gerald's a little younger than me.
100%. Hey, I was reading a thing on Bassmaster. I thought it was cool. You talk about these people who are extremely accomplished, like you in life, extremely accomplished. You don't have to be fishing this stuff, and it was here, let me see if I can pull it up. It should be on the top here. It was Gary Klaus. I can't. Yep. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
And he's fishing the Elite Series, traveling all over. He has all that with Phoenix. He's
saw him at
been
Rayburn
everywhere,
last year
done everything.
For the Open. Yeah.
Actually got to know him when he won the PAA Angler of the Year award.
I did too. I fished it that year and roomed next to him a couple times. He's a great guy.
There was a very you could tell that he wrote it. I believe so. A heartfelt deal about why he's fishing the Elite Series, because the dude's worked so many classics and he's been there and he's spun it and he wants to freaking fish in it. That's why he's fishing the Elite Series. He wants to fish in the freaking classic. And
he's qualified and he can do it. Let him go. Heck,
that's what I'm saying.
And on top of it, he's probably got the best boat. Not the best, but the most popular boat brand. And I don't mean it's not the best. It sure could be, but he's probably got the most popular boat brand on the Bassmasters right now, or any circuit. He's incredible in that short a time. That brand could dominate. I mean, they sponsor every circuit. When I was a kid, Ranger, sponsored every circuit. So it's so unique to watch our industry. And America is a great place. I mean, Gary Klaus has proven it. Look what he's done in a short amount of time. Unbelievable.
It's titled Classic Dreams Live in All of Us. He said the Bassmaster Classic is a special event for me and one I've thought about since I was a 15-year-old poring over Bassmaster magazine. I mean, to me, there's certain guys in this industry, you forget that they're people with aspirations on the water, right? You're just like, oh, that's a dude who's figuring it out at it. But the Classic has that unique special ability to pull out the purity in you, and that it's just cool. I never thought, I've always just well, why is Gary fishing the Elite Series? Because he's got so much stuff going on. He doesn't have to do that if he doesn't want to. He wants to make the dang Classic. Now it all makes sense.
Well, Matt, as you get older and more successful, less things I find in life get you anxious. You don't you've lived through the things that scared you the most, so it takes a lot to get you anxious. And I'll tell you what, when they're getting ready to call my boat number at the beginning of a tournament, I'm anxious. And when you're in a Classic, you are anxious. And I know when you're younger, that anxious feeling isn't something you want. But as you get older, to get those butterflies, to get something that motivates you enough to get up at 3 a.m, check every knot, restring every rod. There's not much in life as you get older that will motivate you like that. So we're blessed to have that motivation. It's still just as exciting to me. Every time they call my boat number or sing the national anthem, I get giddy. You get goosebumps. The hair stands up on your arms. You're ready to compete.
Anything else on the Classic, Charlie, before I let you go? I'm looking at this. X-Zone just sent me a press release. Have you seen this new bait that they just did?
Nope. I will say one thing about the Classic. If you've never been to one and you're a fisherman and it's anywhere in your region, and I don't work for Bass, I'm not trying to sell tickets to the Classic or fill their auditorium, you should go. If you're a bass fisherman, it's the greatest place. Every bass fisherman in the world will be there. And I was going to make one other joke when you said Classic picks. My first Classic pick would be KVD, because even if he's not in the tournament, I think he could win it anyway. I think he could win even when he's not there. I remember the one year he didn't qualify and they wouldn't let him into the meeting. And I said, I think he could win even though he's not in it. I got to, of course, the first MLF was down here when Kevin announced his retirement, and he has been, my biggest. I think he is something else. I'm geeky about Kevin Van Dam, and I went there that morning and got a hat signed from him and told him how happy I was for him to be able to retire. And I said, now that you're retired, you won't be so busy that you can't go fishing with me. Damn it, you're going fishing with me. He gave me a big hug and he said, we'll try to do that. But I know he'll be busy anyway. But man, what a great ambassador of our sport. Incredible.
Have you never fished with Kevin?
I have never fished with Kevin.
No,
I have
get
done
out of
a lot
here,
of things
Charlie.
with Kevin. I've done a lot of things with Kevin.
You've drank cold pops. You've hung out.
I know.
You've never been in the boat together.
No, we've been, we've had a lot of social events together. We fished a lot of fun tournaments together. We fished
against each other.
We fished your chips and
fish and chips,
and we had a ball. That was very social. We had a few cold pops there. I've had the luxury of spending a lot of time with him. He has done some nice things for my bass club. He does nice things that he never brags about or reports. You wouldn't believe how charitable that guy is without blowing his own horn. He has he's been fortunate to do very well, and he's very good about giving it all back, man. He's a great role model, and it's going to be cool to see what he does after retirement. I'm crushed. I want to see him compete forever.
I don't think it's going to last.
We'll see. He's a man of his word. I will be surprised if he.
Yeah, but he's also Kevin Van Dam.
I know. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I don't think he'd go through all this and then come back. I really don't.
You're wrong.
I hope I am. I hope I am. Okay, we're gonna bet a swim jig on that.
A swim jig? It's gonna take 3 or 4 years for this to develop, Charlie.
Okay, a cold pop. We'll
do a cold pop.
Yeah,
we'll do a cold pop. I know you're an Erie guy. This literally just came through. I'll share it. Look at this new. Look at that thing.
Just what we need, another Goby imitator.
It looks awesome though, doesn't it? That thing looks, that's the X-Zone Goby imitator, but look at the upside down paddle tail on it.
I see that. You know what? It's really hard to beat that shad shapeworm. All these fancy looking Gobies, it's hard to beat that stupid shad shapeworm.
It is. I might have to pick that up. That thing is definitely mean looking. I'm going to have to go look that. So I think that'll be available at the Classic. Speaking of which, are you going to be there this year?
I will not.
Oh, no.
No.
You got a bunch of people wanting to meet
Classics
you.
Unless I'm working
that's
or
fair.
in it. I don't make a great fan in person. I would be grumpy and not happy, and I would pretend to be happy, but I want to go back to the Classic when I'm invited. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you're invited on BTL any day of the week, any show, Charlie. I always enjoy it. That's why every 2 months during the 2023 season, and hopefully more frequent, because that means you blasted them in one of the EQs and you've got a trophy next to you and you're back on with that. But I think for both me and the BTL listeners, dude, you're a much needed injection of positivity for an hour into our lives every couple months on BTL.
Well, one more positive thought for you. When you win one of these EQs, I want to be in your seat interviewing you on BTL. Is that a deal?
Yeah, we'll take that.
Yeah, we'll do that. When you win, I'm gonna open the show and say special guest EQ champion Matt.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Nature Boy has won.
Ourselves here, Charlie.
I'd love to do that for you, buddy.
Now I'm going to take a couple shots this year, should the opportunity present itself, because
you're going to try to freak show him like Hallman showed you.
I'm going to try to freak show him, because you do know where the 2024 Bassmaster Classic is, right, Charlie?
It's
Hartley?
on your home lake, sir. Yes, sir. Where Mr. Hallman's all excited. I know so you are.
I'm going to send a couple of arrows out there eventually, hopefully, if I could get in the right. You know what I mean? I'm not going to risk. I'm not going to risk that EQs, 60th place finish.
Get in the Classic. Yeah, man. I hope you do. And good job at Eufaula, man. You really wiggled your way out of a mess there. I listened to the whole story, and good job, dude. I mean, I'm going to keep teasing you about your spinning rod, but when you make it to the elites and I don't, you'll see me. I'll be drop shotting everywhere the following year.
Hey, we got to do it all over again in a couple weeks here on.
Are you ready for Toledo Bend?
I think it's going to be wide open. Should it?
Have you been there before?
Hit the weather. Yeah, I've been there, I think 4 or 5 times before. And then I've covered some tournaments there, like as far as running and the boat lanes. And I mean, once you get above the bridge there, it's just kind of pucker up or idle.
It's an intimidating fishery. It is big. I mean, big. It is a big lake. Just pray the wind doesn't blow, man. That place is not much fun when the wind blows. It's wide open with boat lanes, you know.
All right. Tomorrow's the last show, last full show. Check the website for time. Jeffries is going to be on. We'll have all the times and dates of where I will be, and Frank Scalish will be, and Brad Hallman will be at the Classic if you want to come to see any of the BTL regulars. That's why I asked you, Charlie. I wanted to make sure you could plug where you were going to be.
I'll check my schedule. Maybe I can wander up to Knoxville, but I'm not promising. Yeah. It's going to be hard to leave the fishing.
On Saturday at noon, me and Frank Scalish and I, my mom is an English teacher, I believe technically that's Frank Scalish and I, will be at the bass tank booth in the Classic in that main room at 1:00 on Saturday. I will be at the beat down outdoors booth with the one and only Elite Series Pro Bradley Hallman. And then Frank Scalish and I will be at the Sunline booth inside the big giant conglomerate there at 3 p.m. on Saturday. And Frank is going to have some of his hand-drawn maps and drawings to give away to random BTL fans who meet him at the Classic and are able to recount their favorite Frank Scalish story to make sure that drawing is appreciated by a true BTL fan and not just a random person who's like, hey, look, I got a piece of paper with the drawing on it.
Buried to the cork.
Loaded to the cork.
Loaded to the cork. I like buried.
I think buried has a little bit different meaning to end the show on there. To end the show on there, Charlie. All right, you got anything else?
That's the way to wrap it up, isn't it?
Yeah, that literally. All right, Charlie. Oh, man, that was a great show. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Thank you. I did too, man. Good luck at Toledo Bend.
See you, Charlie Hartley.
Bye, buddy.
All right, that was the one and only Charlie Hartley. Wrapping things up. Let's get some music and get the hell out of here before we get banned. This has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. Stay tuned tomorrow. We are going to have the odd show. Jeffries is going to jump on and we'll do all things Bassmaster Classic. We'll talk to everyone later. See ya.